So I want the release to be fairly short. I don't want it to have it jammed up for that amount of time. I don't want to have the volume manipulated for that long amount of time. Now, for the next one here, I want to talk about attack. For this one, so I can kind of drive home the point, I'm going to turn my ratio up really, really, really high, as I did in the beginning. I'm going to move my threshold back down. So I'm going to make my threshold, I'm going to put it at negative 22. And again, that's pretty low. Not super low, but pretty low. But my ratio, I have it 20-1, which is just crazy. It's just a hard compression. Take a listen to the guitar when my attack is on 0 with those two settings in mind. So again, negative 22 on the threshold, 20-1 on the ratio. Take a listen at what this sounds like. Can you hear that? I'm not going to play the whole thing. You can actually hear distortion in it. And essentially that's what distortion is, when you squish sound so much that it's forced to hit the edges of the borders. That's kind of my definition of it. So you're distorting. So sound, as it's approaching that threshold, it's just being shaved off, and that shaved sound is a bit jagged, hence you get distortion. So that's what's happening there. Now listen what happens when I take my attack and I'm telling my compression, hey, get a hold of my sound a bit later. I'm going to up the seconds here, or the milliseconds. It sounds as though I don't even have a compression on. Well, I do. It's just that the attack is so late. By the time the sound kind of pops above that point, the attack says, hey, I'll get to it in a minute or in a few milliseconds. So the effect really doesn't take place. So again, that's an extreme situation there. So your attack and your threshold and your ratio, they all have to work together. All right, so let me go through this one more time. And again, I'm using extreme numbers just to drive home a point with attack. So I'm going to loop this here real quickly. And you're going to hear the difference between a very slow attack and a fast attack. And again, the attack deals with triggering the compression at negative 22 decibels in this example, and by a factor of 20-1. So we're going to start with a very open-ended long attack, and I'm going to draw it down. Here we go. Pulling it down right there. All right. Let's move on to an actual music track here. All right, so I'm going to play you a part of a track that I created for one of my artists here a while back, and you're going to hear, I believe the compression here is at, I want to say like a 2-1 ratio. And again, this is at the master stage here. So the compression that you're hearing, I know there's some things compressed within the track, but the main compression is at the very end. So take a listen. I'm going to go back on that same piece and I'm going to compress it like crazy. And this is an example of what I hear some people doing on their tracks. So in this instance, again, I'm going to go extreme here just so you can kind of understand how compression can really kill your overall sound. So again, I'm using very extreme numbers, 20-1 ratio. Hopefully you guys will never do that. But again, I'm using that high ratio on the master bus just to drive home a point. My threshold, just so you know, is set at negative 15 decibels. Here we go. All right. So in that instance, when it first started, you may have been thinking, well, that's not that different. The point is, when that kick drum start to drop in and that energy start to push that kick to the edge, my compression says, no, you don't. And it yanked it down so much that it started to give it this ducking or throbbing sound to where the volume is quickly going up and down as the compression is encountering these high energy parts. So in other words, is moving the volume fader, if you will, kind of behind the scenes up and down to where the music sounds like again, it's throbbing or having this wacky sound. So again, extreme examples, and my hope is that you can play around with these concepts even more. The biggest tip that I can leave you guys with today is go back and play around with your compression. Do it with your vocals, do it with your bass guitars or your guitars or what have you. Do it with your master tracks. It takes a bit of time, but hopefully you've heard what each of those areas mean on your plugins. So the next time you're working on a track, you open up your compression, instead of just clicking on the master preset or the vocal preset, look at the settings, look at the threshold, look at the release, look at the attack. And now when you do, you're going to know exactly what that creator was thinking when they made that preset on your plugin. And if you're more knowledgeable about that, your sound will be a lot better. You'll be more successful at this music game. And we are all about that life. Yo, I appreciate you tuning in today. Get at us next episode and make sure that you subscribe to our podcast. You can actually do that from our site. Again, you can go to successwithmusic.com. Again, that's successwithmusic.com.